Good evening, everybody. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
And we're the Scanner Guys, and we're brought to you by this evening by Scanner Master. So we've got a great topic of discussion. This is something that many of you probably don't monitor. I mean, scanning the Forestry Service, wildlife, and environmental services. A lot of times, they may have rangers or they may have their own law enforcement. There can be some interesting listening, especially if it's outside of hunting season and people are doing things illegally.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. We also have a new product announcement, which is exciting. And just at the moment...
It's not the SDS 500.
No, not the SDS 500 or Home Patrol 3 or 3000 or whatever it may be. But hopefully everybody's having a great evening. Let's start up the slideshow. Why don't we?
Okay.
So what we're covering tonight is the Forestry, Wildlife, and Environmental Services. And we're the Scanner Guys, brought to you by Scanner Master. So we want to remind you to follow, like, and subscribe to our social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. This is a great way to stay connected with the Scanner Guys, Rich and I. And you can check out our website, thescannerguyshow.com. It's a brand new website. We're going to continue doing some more work on that as well. We have a blog. I got a few entries that are up, so we'll definitely be adding some more of those as well. And then as you're watching this, you're watching us on YouTube. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, what are you waiting for? Do it right now. I mean, hit that subscribe button and the bell for notification. Definitely give us a thumbs up down there as well. That helps us out as well. So definitely do all that. New product this evening. We're looking at a brand new Remtronics antenna. This is something a little bit different. Many of you are familiar with the Remtronics antennas. Of course, the 800 megahertz antenna, which originally was released by Radio Shack many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
And it was basically manufactured by Remtronics. Remtronics has basically put their own name on their own antenna and started selling it. Started making great antennas, such as, of course, the classic BNC, and then the SMA, and then the SMA for the SDS 100.
Yeah.
So
they had three of them.
Yeah, they had three of them. And now we have a wideband version, which comes in SMA and BNC. Matter of fact, I'm going to post for the watchers this evening, I'm going to post a link in the chat for you guys to check out the antenna, either after the show or later on. It's a direct link with our affiliate link. So if you're looking for a new antenna to add to your collection, as Rich says, the cup holder of antennas.
Oh, yeah, I got a whole stack of them back there.
So BNC, I ended up getting a BNC antenna. Rich got the SMA antenna, which works great for all the SMA radios.
Yeah,
including the SDS.
Yep, it works on my 436. Yeah, it's already pre-trimmed, and it fits on the SDS. Now it doesn't have the washer on it, so it's not going to give you that waterproof. But unless you're using the scanner in the rain, that's not going to be a big issue. So
yeah, and I don't. Even though they say I wouldn't be out there with my SDS in the rain.
No. It's not waterproof, by the way. The SDS is water resistant.
Yes. Yeah. So Joe mentioned it looks kind of like the Condor. It is not as tall as the Condor, and it's not as flexible as the Condor. Yeah. The Condor is definitely a taller antenna. It's got a little bit more give to it. So Rich is going to do a side-by-side. Let's take a look at that up close.
So there's the Condor, and there's the Remtronics. So the Condor is good 4 inches longer, and the Remtronics is much stiffer. It's much stiffer. It's not real flexible like the Condor. So It is quite a bit stiffer. Now the Condor, we do sell a Condor that's pre-trimmed for the SDS, and that works great on the 436 or the SDS. But yeah, you can see the height difference here. Oops.
Yeah, so you're looking at, for the new antenna, looking at my screen, it's about 8.5 inches.
Yep.
So, and then you're looking at, let's take a, do you have a standard antenna that we can look at it side by side?
For now, well, here's the regular Remtronics, and here is, so here we have 4 antennas. So this is the standard
the antenna family.
SMA antenna for the SDS. Yeah. This is the BNC Remtronics, and then the Remtronics wideband, the 842, and a Condor. So you can see trying to find a way where you can see.
Oh, I can definitely see the difference between them all.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, clearly it's not as large as a Condor, and not as small as the stock antenna.
Right. Yeah. So
somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. So it's a little bit taller than the stock antenna. This is the stock antenna versus Remtronics. So it is a little bit taller, about 2 inches. And then the Remtronics is kind of in the middle there. So we'll get these for our OCD people so that they're actually in order from longest to shortest. And then, of course, the Condor is the big daddy of them all.
Yeah, so it's available through scannermaster.com, BNC and SMA. During this broadcast, the SMAs are on order. They should be arriving towards the end of the week. Right. The BNC ones are in stock at the moment, but as we know our audience quite well, during the show and after the show, sales go up on the Scanner Master website considerably. Yeah. So they may,
they may be gone by the time you try to get them.
Yeah, so definitely order one of those. I mean, as many of you know, you can't have enough portable antennas. Yeah. The thing that everybody's
radios.
Yeah, the thing that's probably everybody's wondering is, we've talked about the antenna. How does it work? What is your thoughts, Rich?
I like it. It definitely does work better than the antenna that comes with the radio. Mm-hmm. It works on 800 megahertz. It's not quite as good as this dedicated 800 megahertz antenna, but it is still quite good. Where it works really good is on VHF. I have weather channels. I cannot pick up the weather channel on a handheld scanner with a standard antenna, but I can on the 842 from where I'm at. So it does work very well on VHF. On UHF, I really haven't noticed a whole lot of difference between the other antenna, but we don't have a whole lot of UHF around here.
Yes, that's for sure. And, the same thing for me. I noticed that works really well on all the 800 megahertz digital trunking that I have down here. Mm-hmm. It works well on VHF. I don't have a lot of UHF.
Yeah.
Over
and
here,
I don't have any low band out here, so I really wasn't able to test it on any low band.
Yeah, but it seems to work pretty well. Definitely take a look at the antenna. It's going for $29.95 on scannermaster.com. I posted a link to the BNC connection one in the chat. If you want to go to the website, down in the bottom, there's an affiliate link for the scanner guys. Click that. That'll take you to the website. And if you end up purchasing something, that'll help us along as well. So definitely check that out. Let me put up the slide one more time, Rich, so people can see the two antennas. As you can see there, I'm just going to take the Scanner Master logo off for a second there. You can see that bridge there, where it'll fit on the SDS with the metal part for the antenna that's over on the right of your screen. And then, of course, the antenna that's on the left of the screen is the BNC connection. I ended up going with the BNC connection because I may want to use this on the 125 AT. Right. When I spoke to Rich, he said it works fairly well on the VHF, so that's my rail fanning radio. So I figured, let me get the BNC connection, and then for the SDS, I did the I can just use the adapter, the SMA to BNC, and that should be fine. But yeah, I mean, it looks like a pretty good antenna. I mean, Rimtronics has really done a great job with building these antennas. I mean, they've got
Joe's comment there.
Good product line. Let me take a look at Joe's. Oh yes, Joe. Our logo is an added bonus. See right there. We can. That's an added thing on there, Joe. So that's the Scanner Master Special Rimtronics that comes with our logo on the top.
Now, with this antenna, it was us that when Rimtronics was coming up with this antenna, it was our idea to have the SMA pre-trimmed for the SDS.
It only makes sense.
Yeah,
and then I mean, the other thing too, with this series of antennas, it's not 3 different antennas. It's basically one SMA and one BNC.
Yeah,
it just makes
it does work fine on a 436, and it doesn't look ungainly on a 436.
Yeah, so I mean, it's no different than a little bit of metal showing on your BNC connection.
And there's enough of a little lip on there, so you really don't see a lot of that anyway. So yeah, there's the 436. It looks just fine.
Yeah, it looks good to me.
Yeah, if you're really OCD, you can put a little rubber washer in there or something like that. Who knows? But I'm not that goofy. I'm goofy enough, but I'm not that goofy. But it works great on the 436. Let's use it on to test it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So it looks really good. So let's continue on with the slideshow presentation. That was right in the middle of the promoting of the scannerguys.com, scannerguyshow.com.
Yes.
So make sure you purchase your hats, t-shirts, and coffee mugs through the scannerguyshow.com. That helps to support the program. As always, Scanner Master is a sponsor, but it only covers so much of the goings-ons of what we're doing with this show each and every week. So definitely check out the swag. We hope to have towards fall a hoodie, which would be real nice, especially if you're in the cold climates. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter. We occasionally send a newsletter. You can sign up at the scannerguyshow.com. Learn more about Rich and myself and anything else that's going on. And last year, during the holidays, we sent out an email prior to the Scanner Masters Black Friday sale. So our viewers knew, I can't remember if it was hours or day, or at least a day or two before. Yeah, so it pays to join our newsletter. You join an exclusive group of people.
And we are always begging our bosses to let us do more stuff like that for our watchers. So hopefully we'll be able to do more of that in the future. And if the show remains as successful as it has been, there's a good chance of that.
All right, so good stuff there. So the topic of discussion, the forestry, the wildlife and environmental services. Why not scan these departments? I mean, that's going to be what we're going to answer tonight. I mean, a lot of you probably overlook these agencies, and they're operating, up the street, right in your community.
So many people are so concentrated on the police, the fire, and the EMS, and they forget about all the other stuff that's out there. And if you're in an area where these people are active, it's a whole lot more interesting than the police are, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, especially with all the, with stuff going on, and you've got people all cooped up, and with with the COVID restrictions, so people are trying to do more things outdoors, and people, unfortunately, that have never been hiking before and don't realize that the trail is a little bit above their level, they get lost, or
we get that all the time out here.
Yeah, getting lost or getting injured. I mean, if you're an outdoors person or you're new to outdoors, doing stuff, keep to your skill level. Don't do the most craziest hike.
Yeah, take it easy, take it slow. Know your limitations. Like a good man once said, a good man knows his limitations. So know your limitations, don't exceed them.
Okay, so Smokey Bear. He's been an icon. Look at this. I looked up some history. Since 1944, he's been the voice of the wildfire prevention campaign. I mean, that's quite a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's been voiced, like the only you can prevent a forest fire. It's been voiced by several different people. Sam Elliott, I'm not too sure if you're familiar with that actor.
I am, actually. He's the old cowboy actor with that great voice. Yeah.
He's currently the voice on those ads. So any of the current ads that you see, he's currently the voice. So, we couldn't do this show without mentioning Smokey Bear.
That's right. And it is Smokey Bear, and with an E in there as well. That is the official name. There are some ads and songs and such that called it Smokey the Bear, but he really is Smokey Bear is the name of the character. And it became really famous during World War II, and some people may not be aware of this, but the Japanese during World War II launched thousands of balloons with a flammable liquid in them. From there, launched them to get into the jet stream to hopefully that they would fall on parts of the states and cause wildfires. And some of them did, and I think there was about a half a dozen people that were killed. It was nowhere near as successful as they had intended, but that was a big part of the Smokey Bear campaign to help prevent wildfires. And back then it was forest fires. And now they're more wildfires or wildland fires. There's a lot of different names for it, but this is the season for it.
Yeah, I just saw Gordon just mention it, forest fire season there now. I believe Gordon's over at if I remember correctly, over in the UK. Yeah, I'm just reading. I kind of chuckled at you see the comments that are floating on the other side, and it kind of made me chuckle. Buy 12 antennas, get the coffee mug. Oh boy, yeah, we love our audience.
We do. So yeah, Smokey Bear is he's been on postage stamps, he's been in movies, he's been on songs, he's been on TV shows. He even had a wife at one point, and I don't remember what her name was, but there was a bear that was rescued from a forest fire, and they used him as kind of like the character, the live version of the character, and he was in a zoo in Washington, D.C. for many, many years, and it's just been very famous, and what a wonderful advertising campaign that was.
Yeah, it still is. I mean, since 1944 and still going strong.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take a look at it. So when we think of forest fire services, the first one that pops in my head is CAL FIRE. I mean, most people associate, they think, California because they've had so many forest fires. And look how long CAL FIRE's been around, since 1885.
Yeah. And in a lot of places in California, CAL FIRE is the fire department. They are, I would almost have to assume that they are the largest state fire agency in the country. But like I say, in a lot of years, I live not too far, about 120 miles from the California border, and that's all desert land. And CAL FIRE is responsible for so much more than just forest fires, and they work so closely hand in hand with all the local fire agencies. And it is really, it's really a big deal out there.
Yeah, I mean, you're just looking at the numbers overall on the screen. Permanent employees, you have 6,100 people, that are employed by CAL FIRE, and then the seasonal employees were up to 2,600. Yeah. And then look at the annual budget, $2.3 billion. I mean, that's a big operation, Rich.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and they need it though. I mean, California's a huge state. It's what, the third largest,
Yeah,
fourth largest state in the country.
it's a large state, and then of course, like you said, if they're taking place of where there would be a local department covering it, it costs money, to maintain everything.
Yeah, and the most important thing is the very last item on the list.
Yes, they're operating on analog VHF conventional. Rich, being as close as you are to the California border, do you get any of their radio transmissions? Any skip?
Every once in a while I will. Most of the time when I do hear them, I hear the aircraft. And I'll hear tankers or spotter aircraft and such if they're working in Riverside or San Bernardino counties, which are the closest counties to me. And they will work occasional fires in that area. It's all desert land out there, so they have less fire operations there than they do in the more wooded areas. But they are, I do hear them every once in a while.
That's cool. So you do have it programmed in to occasionally get the aircraft.
Yeah, I have one of the scanners that's set up with that, and when I know they're active out there, I'll pop it on there just to see if I can hear it.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, at least your line of sight with at least the aircraft at this case.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely a good thing to think of here. Now, many states have a forestry department. And some areas actually have a localized department, or the fire department has equipment that's dedicated to, handling some sort of situation in the forest. Yeah. Now, here are, boy, that pesky logo tonight is getting in the way of things. Let's go over some of the terminology. So now, when I was doing research for the slideshow, there was lists and lists and lists of terminology that's out there pertaining to the Forestry Service. What I kind of narrowed it down to is the types of equipment that you would hear over the radio. I mean, everybody loves the big equipment, the aircraft and the equipment on the ground. So I figured we would talk about tonight the equipment. So the air tanker sounds, official.
Yeah. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. Officially, the terminology for a tank with wings is a tanker. And if it's on wheels, it's a tender. So now, with that being said, a lot of agencies call a wheeled tank truck a tanker, although it is supposed to be called a tender. But yeah, if you're being official about it, a tanker has wings and a tender has wheels. But regardless of what you call it, it's an aircraft with a tank of water or chemicals, and they drop it on a fire. And oftentimes they'll have the tanker being led by a spotter aircraft, usually a smaller, more nimble aircraft to go in there and spot, and they talk back and forth on the radio, which is great for us to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, okay, your spot is here, and that's where they're going to drop their retardant.
Yeah, so that's definitely good to have the two aircrafts because that gives us something to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've ever seen this in person, it is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, as long as you're far enough away where you're not within that forest or where the event's taking place. Yeah. So here we're going to stay in the air, Rich. Since you're the aviation enthusiast, have you seen this in action? Number 2.
The Bambi buckets, yes. Where I live, I live right on the edge of suburbia, and I'm surrounded on all sides by desert and mountains. And just to my north and northwest are some mountains which have a lot of fire activity. Mm-hmm. And in fact, that fire where there were 15 firefighters killed about 10 years ago, where I live now, you would have seen the smoke from that fire. Wow. When they had a fire there 2 or 3 years ago on the same mountain, I could see the fire from my backyard, or the smoke anyway. And I was up there on my way back from Prescott, and I had to get detoured around the fire, and sure enough, there was this pond that was close to the highway, and I saw the helicopters coming in, and there was a whole line of helicopters. And if you ever seen like MASH or anything like that, where you got a whole line of helicopters coming in, well, there was a whole line of helicopters coming in with buckets on ropes, and they were dipping the buckets in the pond, grabbing the water, and off they go to drop the water on the other side of the mountain for the fire. I stayed there for 3 hours watching that. It was fascinating.
Wow. And bucket drops,
Yep.
that's got to be. I mean, you think of, water being dropped from that. It's got to have some force.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't at a place where I could watch them drop the buckets, which is probably a good thing because I probably would have been on fire. But just to see them do it. And the buckets, they look puny. And you're thinking, what's that going to do? But these buckets are huge. They're the size of an RV.
Yeah, you're looking at it from a distance
Yeah.
for the most part. So you're thinking, that ain't much of anything.
Well, where I was standing, I was 200 yards from the pond. I feel the prop wash from the helicopters coming in. And, so I was right there watching them. And it was, it was fascinating to watch. And then I got a great idea of the size of these buckets. They were huge. They were bigger than the choppers, a couple of them.
Wow. And then, of course, we're very familiar with engines. Mm-hmm. Typically a vehicle on the ground providing a level of pumping, water, and hose capacity. So,
Yep.
Most fire departments have those, and of course they're used. And then,
and then there's the difference between an engine and a truck. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
So an engine is the ground vehicle that pumps water. Oftentimes they'll have a tank on there for a fast attack. A truck is the terminology for a truck. Basically, is a truck has got a ladder on it, and it could be an extension type ladder, or it could be a snorkel type, which is a bucket on an elbow. But normally, a truck has got a ladder, an engine has got the pump and tank.
Yeah, and then have you seen our next category in action?
NAFs. I have seen them from the outside. On the fire 3 years ago, a lot of the aircraft are going in and out of the airport in Prescott, which is an hour drive from here. And they didn't have a C-130, but they had another aircraft that they were loading these equipment on. And I don't remember what type of aircraft it was off the top of my head, but they weren't running C-130s on that particular fire. But they had the DC-10, number 910, on that fire, and that was parked there. So so they have a couple of those, but the one that goes into the C-130s is a specialized system. So they can keep that there, and then they can pretty much grab any C-130 off the line and load this equipment on there, and off they go.
Yeah, I'm just amazed with the capacity of 3,000 gallons. Like, I can tell when my pickup truck has about a 20-gallon tank, and if I run it all the way empty, it feels, and then when I go to get gas, the truck feels really heavy. I can't imagine the weight of 3,000 gallons. I mean, that's just crazy.
Well, if you take a look at a regular fire engine that you would see on a city or suburban fire department, typically those have a tank of anywhere between 500 and 750 gallons. You might find one with a little bit larger, or you might see a tender, a tank truck, and that might have 1,000 or 1,500 gallons of water. And remember, water is what, 7 pounds per gallon. So if you got 1,000 gallons, you've got 7,000 pounds. Okay, 8 pounds. Yeah, you got 7 or 8 pounds per gallon. So you're looking at 24,000 pounds.
Jeez.
To carry, and that's just the water. Yeah. Remember that movie Star Trek, where the Star Trek movie where they went back in time to get a whale and bring it back?
No, I didn't see that. What ended up happening with that?
Star Trek 4. So they went back in time to get a whale to bring it back to the future to stop the world from blowing up, and and Captain Kirk said, "Yeah, we got to get this whale." And Scotty, the engineer, was doing all the calculations, and he overdid the calculations. And why so much? He said, "Oh, but the water." Whales got to have water to stay in, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
water is very heavy, and like I
Yeah.
say, 7 or 8 pounds a gallon. So if you ever carry it in your groceries, you carry it in that gallon of milk. That's how heavy water is. It's the same weight as milk.
That's for sure. And that leaves us to the final, the water tanker, which is the vehicle of transporting quantities of water, which we just literally mentioned some of the variations of that. So those are some of the terms that you would hear. And if you're looking for more, trust me, Google is your friend. You will find
yeah.
tons and tons of terms to look at.
That's the neat thing about this topic is there are no secrets.
Yeah,
Everything is available in its public domain.
and the great thing I used to listen to a lot when I was a kid growing up in Massachusetts was the fire towers. They had fire towers across the whole entire state, and they still do. They have 42 active towers in Massachusetts, basically active from spring all the way into late fall. And I put up, you can find all these frequencies, of course, at our friends at radioreference.com. Believe it or not, they've had more than the 42 towers. They had a lot more. There's a lot of towers that have became deactivated or were torn down or not replaced. But 42 towers. And I used to listen to them, the channels all the time, because I could always hear if there was something going on, and then I would hear if it was in my backyard, one of the neighboring towns would end up responding to an illegal burn or a brush fire, and I would first get tipped off by hearing communication in the fire towers communicating to the main dispatch. Looks like we have something going on in this area, and then you would later hear, minutes later, or even quicker than that, the local fire department being dispatched to check it out and find out what's going on. So that's definitely something that you should consider. In Massachusetts, it's known as the Department of Comfrey, known as the DCR, Fire Control, and it's really cool, to be able to check that out.
We don't have fire towers out here. Well, we do. They're just not as ubiquitous as they are in Massachusetts. There are some of them in the national forests, but they are usually on the mountaintops where they're kind of hard to find or kind of hard to get to. So.
Okay, I was just checking stock on something.
Yeah, I was just doing that. I just answered that comment. The A42s, the SMAs are out of stock. The BNCs are in stock, and the SMAs will be back soon.
I was gonna say if the BNC ones were out of stock, I would say, boy, you guys are pretty amazing.
Yeah, you guys are good.
You guys are good. So we kind of hinted this about the forestry services. Of course, the best place to look for these frequencies, of course, is Radio Reference. A lot of time, the forestry services will be listed on the state page under state agencies. So don't go too far when you go to your state. When you're on the state page, look down below the map of the state, and you'll see state agencies, and you should find some frequencies locally. Yeah. And if they're on a statewide trunk system or a statewide trunk system is present, go looking for them there. Go on, the Viper system or whatever it may be for your local state, and you may actually see some talk groups that are dedicated to them. Pop them into the scanner. Yeah. See what you hear.
And these are the kind of channels that you want to have in your scanner. And if you have the ability to have a second scanner to put them in there, these are the ones that are when the stuff hits the fan frequencies. And when you're hearing that stuff, you want to listen to it. So. They may not be used very often, but when they are, it's good stuff to listen to.
Yeah, definitely is. And it may be, like if you've got a miscellaneous scanner that's scanning all the miscellaneous stuff, these channels are going to tip you off when things are going to hit the fan because it's going to be first communicated there. And then eventually you'll hear your local fire department coming in to assist at that point. So definitely good stuff there. So let's continue on.
And don't forget the interop channels too.
Yes, the interop channels are definitely key. Now, how many of you, have your fishing license or your hunting license or anything like that? So this is a very important agency that kind of keeps track of those things, making sure people are doing the appropriate thing at the appropriate time of the year.
Yep.
The other thing, too, is to make sure you're not harming the environment, by pulling out trees that don't belong to you and so on.
Yeah, depending on what your state calls it. In Illinois, they went from the Conservation Police to the DNR Police, the Department of Natural Resources. They changed that, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago. But they might be called Fish and Wildlife, Environmental, or Conservation, or DNR.
So many names, so many different names.
Every state's got a different name for them. But regardless of what their name is, most of the time, the DNR or conservation police are just that. They are police officers. They have full police powers, but their main focus is conservation issues. Like a state trooper has got police powers, full police powers, but his main focus is traffic or whatever the situation is.
Patrolling the highways. Yeah. Those major interstates and so on. This is kind of like, you'll see them a lot on state property. Where it's preserved forests or even, facilities where the state owns a lot of property and it's used for hiking and all that stuff. Yep. Or it could be property that's set aside for hunting, hunters can hunt safely.
Yeah, there might be hunting reserves and such, dedicated spots for fishermen and stuff. And so the conservation police will do things like check for hunting licenses or fishing licenses. Make sure you haven't exceeded your limit, your daily, monthly, or your tag limit. If you're a hunter, some states that they have tags that if you want a deer, if you harvest a deer, you have to have a tag and attach a tag to it, and they'll check for that. There are size and weight limits, perhaps, and they might be the first one to respond to a wildland fire or any other type of emergency occurring on these state lands. And also, a lot of counties will have their own rangers or conservation officers and such for any county parks or county preserves.
Yeah, and the other thing too is if, for instance, if someone shoots an animal outside of hunting season, a lot of times the local or county or state police will contact this department to be able to investigate. Yeah. And look at the situation, to see, was the person in the wrong? Were they doing this because the animal was suffering? There's a lot of different things. I've had that happen to me. Yeah. A matter of fact, I was talking to you when that occurred. Remember that? I'm not going to go into that. Yeah. I'm not going into that whole story.
I think we were live when that happened.
Yeah, we were live, and I had to leave because there was something that happened right in my yard. Well, in my neighbor's yard, and eventually met the state fish and wildlife officer that patrols this area.
Well, and there are other things, too, that they might be doing, too. A lot of times the state conservation or DNR agencies are in charge of things like boat registrations or snowmobile registrations, personal watercraft, and that kind of stuff, and snowmobiles. My sister's got a jet ski that she has to register with the DNR in her state. So that's it. And like Dale just said, tribal agencies, tribal Indian reservations or tribal tribes have their own conservation and wildlife agencies very often as well. And some of these, the areas that they cover are the size of eastern states. I mean, we got the Navajo, Apache, and several other tribes here, and the reservations are huge out here.
Yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, definitely. I mean, this is interesting stuff to tune into. Quick little story. I was at an expo, a law enforcement expo for Scanner Master, and I had I can't remember what they're called in Massachusetts. They may be DNR, but I'm not 100% certain. So I had a couple of their officers coming over to our booth, and they said, do you sell 15Xs? I said, yeah, we do carry 15Xs. He said, we love to put them in the truck. And I said, oh, what are you monitoring? He said, well, a lot of people that are doing illegal hunting and so on, they typically use, those family band radios.
Marine radios.
They're using, radios to communicate. One's being the lookout, the other person is, out there. And a lot of times they hear activity on the scanner, they know, and they listen a little bit and they figure out, okay, these people are up to no good, and then they're able to locate them.
I hear that here all the time. Just to my south, I can look. In fact, I can see the mountain through a window right now. They hunt mule deer in the mountain over here, and they'll have. I've heard them on the Marine Channel. I've heard them on FRS. I've heard them on GMRS channels, and they'll have a spotter at an elevated spot up the mountain, and they'll be spotting down there with a pair of binoculars, and they say, okay, it's 150 yards over this way. Yeah, they use anything that's cheap. So they'll send.
And Joe hit the nail right on the head on that. I mean, anything that's affordable.
Yeah, and I mean, if they weren't doing something illegal, that would be a legitimate use for that radio.
Mm-hmm. As long as you're not using the marine radio on land where there's no water.
Yeah.
But
and we talked about that before. Make sure you keep those channels in your radio, even if you live in the middle of the desert like I do.
Yeah, because you could hear some interesting things. Yeah. So finding the environmental and why am I tripping over that word tonight? It's been a long day. Conservation police. Rich, just help me.
All right. Finding local environmental and conservation police frequencies. Radio reference is your friend.
It's been a long day. I'm sorry. Yeah. So first place to look is on the state page. Again, state agencies. And then, of course, rule of thumb, you got one of those statewide trunk systems. Look at the talk groups on there. There may be a category.
Yeah, and you may turn on your spell checker.
Yep. Yeah, turn on your spell checker, too.
Or turn off your spell checker. I think that's what got us on this one. So, they might be on the trunking system, or like say, if you're in California, they're on the VHF channels. They are fascinating to listen to, even routine stuff. They handle a lot of the same activity that your local police and fire do, and they just do it in a different location. And sometimes it gets really funky because they, instead of saying going to 123 Main Street, they say, I'm about 6 miles out on this path. And then when you get to the big tree that with the split down the middle, you turn left and go another 1.5 miles. It's that kind of location finding sometimes.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. A lot of people know these national park services. I mean, there's some of the most beautiful spots in the country. And they're, of course, you have park rangers, and then you also have the law enforcement rangers as well. And a lot of this can be monitored on a scanner. There is some encryption, but some of it is in the clear. But keep in mind, a lot of this, because it's federal, it's digital. So you're definitely going to need at least a digital capable scanner. It's P25 conventional for the most part. So you could, if you have an older scanner that's not phase 2 capability, you don't need to worry about that because it's conventional. And a lot of parks will have not only, their rangers, on foot, they'll have them in vehicles. They may have an air unit. They may have a maritime unit. I mean, there's lots of equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these parks, Yellowstone, my wife and I have been to Yellowstone and Rocky Mountain National Park several times. There are big lakes, so there are boats on the water with marine radios. They've obviously got mountains and forests and wildlife and geysers and all kinds of neat stuff.
All kinds of cool stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then the other thing too is a lot of these places have private concessions on the property as well. Hotels and resorts, cabins, campgrounds might be run by a private company, stores, tour guides and such. There's a lot of different concessions in these big, huge national parks, especially out here in the West. So there are a lot of business channels in operation as well.
Yeah, so I just want to get to this question before we go any further. I don't want to get it lost. So if you know of frequencies such as the Virginian Forestry Service, and you have the frequencies and you can verify it, and you can even probably find the licenses of these, definitely you can submit them to Radio Reference. This is valuable information to Radio Reference. And you can submit it on if it's the state system, you can submit it on the state page. Just make sure you follow their parameters of what they're looking for. And this will be great. If you have this, or you have, additional frequencies that are active, definitely submit them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes for anything. If you find something that is in the database, submit it. I was at a doctor's appointment the other day, and I got a close call hit on a DMR channel. It turned out it was the hospital patient transportation. Got that added into the database. So same thing, when I go into one of the parks, I find one of these channels. If it's not in there, I'll send it in.
Yeah, definitely share that. The Radio Reference database is only as good as all the information that's being submitted in there. So the more information it's submitted in there by you, the user, it's going to make it all even better. So let me go to our next slide, and of course, Radio Reference, our best source for local, national.
Do you see a pattern going on here?
Yes. So anything frequency-wise, first place you look is Radio Reference.
Right.
So, for any of the national parks or law enforcement for ranger frequencies, Radio Reference is the best place to look. First place to look is on the state page under area-wide frequencies. So the state page for a lot of these larger systems is the best place to look. There's even on Radio Reference a wiki that lists all the national parks and frequencies there by state. So that's another tool that you can use. And of course, another pattern here, Rich, we've mentioned this multiple times. If there is a state trunking system, look there. There may be some talk groups on there as well.
Absolutely. And the neat thing about the wiki is that there's a lot of good information that doesn't quite fit the parameters of the database. Their terminology or channel plans and stuff like that, which may not be evident in the database. And a lot of people forget about the wiki. And it is a fantastic source of information. And again, if you have information that you think should be in the wiki, but it's not, you can submit it and put it in there.
Yeah, that's a great thing. If it doesn't fit, like you said, you hit the nail right in the head, Rich. If it doesn't fit perfectly in the database, there may be a spot in a wiki for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's and I wish more people knew about it. That should be a great show topic for us in the future.
Maybe we should dissect the wiki. We could possibly do it.
I don't know. That sounds almost sounds pornographic. Dissect the wiki?
I didn't mean it to go that way, but yeah, definitely.
You see where my mind is. It's right in the middle of the gutter. So
yeah, but definitely Radio Reference is definitely key. We're hoping that after tonight's broadcast, you kind of looked at, looking at these other frequencies. Well, before we do the mid part, we'll banter a little bit here.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into that. So the key thing that you and I mentioned, if you have an extra scanner, and it's covering a lot of the miscellaneous stuff, these agencies would definitely be good to monitor. And what we mean by like a miscellaneous scanner or a scan list is, your med flights type of things, your statewide channels, the helicopter or the helicopters, depending on your state and how much moolah they have. They may have several of them and then being dispatched to various areas. So things like that, you want to definitely have a scan list that's scanning some of these channels that are not busy all the time. Although when I monitored Massachusetts for the enforcement, of the parks and so on, they were pretty darn busy.
Yeah.
To the point where they had to break out their communication. They were originally on a handful of channels. They ended up having multiple talk groups to cover each region of the state. That's how busy they were.
Yeah, and some of these agencies are busy all the time, and some of them are very seasonal. So that's why, you have to pick and choose. You might end up locking out some of the routine channels, but keep those other less common channels in your scanner and available, just so you can find out. And that's a good way to find out when there's activity. And we have a lot of customers, especially in California, that have scanners to monitor the fire departments in the areas, so they know when to bug out. Yeah. But they had a big fire in a town called Paradise, California, a couple of years ago. And we have several customers out there that have bought scanners and set them up so they know when to get out. And that could be very important as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Or if you're in an area where it's prone to them, I mean, it's interesting monitoring to hear what's going on, what direction the fire's, if it's a forest fire, what direction it's going in. And then it's interesting monitoring as well, just being able to hear what's going on. Yeah. And then keep in mind, this is something, like the great thing about our hobby is, yes, people refer to a scanner as a police scanner, but it just doesn't monitor just the police. And if you're looking for other things, and I know we mentioned the dirty E word, and let's say your department has gone to the dirty E word encryption, and some of these channels are not encrypted, this may be a different avenue to be able to listen to something different on the scanner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we've talked about this a few times. What to listen to when the police go encrypted, and this is a great thing, and you might get fascinated by it. I spent 30-something years on the police department. I never listened to the police on my scanner. That's just not my thing.
Yeah, you lived it. You lived it. This is your 9-to-5 job. Well, not 9 to 5, but it was your
11 to 7 or 7 to 3 or
yeah. I mean, but the thing was you went home and you didn't you want to listen to something else other than
I want to listen to something else. So I spent more time listening to the fire department than I did the police. So and nowadays, it's fire season. I'll keep that scanner up and listen for the stuff. We do have some fires in the area now. Nothing that I can see right now, but there was a fire. 25 miles from here yesterday, which they've got. But now they've got a pretty good-sized one going on up in Kingman, which is about 200 miles away. I haven't been able to hear anything on that, but if you're up around in that area, that's going to be pretty interesting to listen to.
Yeah, like I don't know what got me involved. I saw those frequencies listed in the old Scanner Master Pocket Edition books. It's so crazy that, to think of it, I purchased the Scanner Master little pocket guides from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and so on. And, to think that I'd be working there, is kind of crazy. Growing up as a kid, I would purchase that. And I saw, the fire towers. This is well before radio. It's amazing that Radio Reference has done a huge thing. But I saw those frequencies listed and I programmed it into the scanner. I was interested, I would listen to it through the whole entire season, and it wasn't that busy. It kind of was a good thing to kind of fill in the lulls on your scanner, because you want to have a good balance. You don't want to be like Chicago police nonstop, but you kind of want to have enough activity so you can follow the communication. And then if it's you get some quiet time, you get something to fill it in, and those fire towers definitely kind of filled in the lulls.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the comments was made a little earlier that I wanted to kind of touch on. One of the reasons why fires seem to be much more prevalent today, wildland fires seem to be much more prevalent today, partly is because of the effectiveness of putting the fires out. Nature uses fires to clear out the dead wood and the underbrush and such. And put these fires out allows all that stuff to build up and makes much more fuel for the next fire. When they had the big fire in Yellowstone 15, 20 years ago that really devastated Yellowstone, part of it was the main cause was the buildup of all that fuel over the last 30 or 40 years of putting fires out and not allowing that stuff to be cleared out. So nowadays they're doing more controlled burns, and that's another thing to listen to. They're doing controlled burns where they'll burn a section to get rid of some of that fuel so that they can control it, and they don't have a and there's a term for it, human caused or unintended fire or whatever. I don't remember the exact terminology, but they don't have a bad fire. A good fire will help prevent bad fires.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I've heard that happen. Even with farming. A lot of time to re-energize a field, or they will do a natural burn in order to to get it does something to the soil and so on. I don't know the technical. I'm a scanner guy. I'm not a. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, it does help the soil. When they burn the fire, a lot of that the remains help re-energize the soil, re-nitrotize the soil. It's sometimes the fire is set intentionally for good reasons, and that helps prevent the bad ones down the road.
Yeah, so we've been getting some show suggestions, and we've been just prior to the broadcast, we'll give you kind of an inside look of what Rich and I typically what we'll do is before we go on the air, we're in the studio like this because he's in Arizona and I'm in North Carolina for about 30 minutes before the broadcast, and we're usually bouncing things back and forth. And we've been getting several emails from viewers and also Scanner Master customers about, show suggestions. This next show, which I'm going to show you, which is going to be for next week, is one of those suggestions. So basically building the perfect shack. Now, we're going to keep in mind, building the perfect shack, without breaking the bank. I mean, we realize, you guys are spending, whatever extra money you have to be able to get the really cool, like SDSs or whatever it may be. So you don't have a huge budget, but there's things that you can do to dress up your shack that's not going to cost you a fortune. And we're going to talk about it in our next show. So kind of dressing up that shack, maybe organizing it. We'll even dive into maybe, looking at a multi-coupler, if you have a really good antenna and you want to do, splitting the signal in between a couple of scanners and you want to do it the appropriate and correct way. There's lots of cool things that you can get over time. A great shack, as Rich, he's got the ultimate shack, but it wasn't always like that. You built it over time. It's probably, if many of you seen Radio Reference, over the years with Rich's his shack has transformed over the years. It wasn't anywhere near what it looks like today. But, the thing is you can have a really sweet shack and not spend a ton of dough.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to spend that kind of money to have a good shack. Now, you're not going to have that many radios. You got 2 or 3 radios. You can make it look great and, have something like this perhaps and spend very little money if you're willing to put the effort into it and are somewhat creative. I'm not creative. I have to buy the stuff and put it together.
Yeah,
You're a little more creative than I am.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing. So as we always say, if don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you are a Roku or Apple TV user, definitely download the YouTube app. You can watch us on your television if you like. And of course, you can watch us on your smartphone, your tablet, and of course, your computer. So definitely tune in next Wednesday, May the 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on YouTube. That's going to be our next show of discussion. So definitely tune in. We're going to be thinking of some more shows. Believe it or not, we're in the we're approaching the month of May already.
Yeah.
So this year is going by so fast. So definitely tune into that. We've got a great show coming up Monday night. If you haven't watched Train Aficionado Live, it's basically a rail fanning show. If you're interested in trains or railroading, Train Aficionado is basically trains, trolleys, and transit. So covering all those things that basically ride on rails. We're going to have an interesting guest, Danny Harmon from Distant Signals. He has a YouTube channel. And he basically, a friend of mine was saying that he's looking forward to the show. It's almost like watching his video is almost like going on a field trip with him.
Yeah.
He takes you along for the ride and explains things. I mean, he's a phenomenal guy. He's a great YouTuber. We're going to talk to him about his channel, how he got into the hobby. We may even dabble into a little bit of scanner conversation because that's a key tool to monitor the railroads. So we're going to be on Monday night, May the 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. So hop over to the Train Aficionado YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Check out the social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, and of course the blog, trainaficionado.com. I can say, Rich, I'm really looking forward to this interview. I'm sure you are too.
Oh yeah, if you've never watched Danny's videos on YouTube and you like trains, go do a search on Distant Signals. The guy's got some phenomenal videos. He's got that great voice for radio, and so he's a professional enunciator, as they used to say.
And even if you have somewhat of interest into it, it's really good. You know, like he'll kind of explain things. You know, like if you ever wondered, he's got a great video they just put out. You know, you ever wondered how the railroad crossing works?
Yeah,
he's got a video that explains the different technology that's there that makes the gates go down and the bells go off and the lights go on. It's very interesting. So even if you ever, I wonder how that works, check out his video.
Oh yeah, and it's great because when I watched that video, it's like, you know, I've been a rail fan for a long time.
Yeah,
and and I really never thought about that, but I was fascinated by that. Okay, that's how that works. I kind of had an idea of sort of what might have caused it, but now I know. And
there's various technology too. It's just not one simple piece of technology. It does it. There's variations of the technology. Yeah. So we're finished the first hour. So we've got 30 minutes of Q&A. So stick around right here. We're going to answer some questions. We're going to continue doing a little bit more talk of forest fire and anything else that you want to chat about. We just want to remind you that our sponsor of the show, as each and every Wednesday night, is Scanner Master. Since 1978, the nation's most experienced dealer of all brands of new scanners, software, accessories, and programming. Shop them online or call the scanner experts at 1-800-722-6637. Open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Shop them online, scannermaster.com. Hit the affiliate link down below and do your purchases that way. That'll help us keep doing great programming on the channel. You got questions? Well, email them, support@scannermaster.com. And as always, you can give them a call Monday through Friday as well at 1-800-722-6637. Call the Scanner Experts. And don't forget to follow and like and subscribe to their social media as well. They're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. All right, and I think that's it. And then this is the topic of show. We'll remind you one more time towards the end of the broadcast. So let's hop into some of those questions that we have from the audience. I saw a lot of interesting comments towards the beginning talking about the new antenna, which is really cool.
So we have a whole lot of check-ins and a lot of our regulars and a few new people. A couple I wanted to give a quick shout out. Dan Brecky Larson from Norway. As far as I know, he's the first viewer from Norway that's checked in the past. So welcome, Dan. And our buddy Lincoln is no longer in San Diego. So he's moved to Florida. So he's escaped California and and went to the other side of the country.
He went to the furthest point to get away from California. You know,
yeah, just about without having to deal with the snow. So.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Lincoln. And let's see here. Mike got his AM license. Our buddy from Mississauga got his AM license. Congratulations. So keep an eye on the handbands for VA3 ADP. And Jonathan, we actually had a caller today ask me when you are getting your hand license.
I'll have to, as soon as I'm able to.
Yeah, right. Remember Chuck had his course online. So
yeah, as soon as I have, the Dale coins it great. I can't think of the coupons or fun coupons. I think that's what Dale calls it. Mm-hmm. Dale, our listener and friend out there, Dale Osborne. Yeah. I think he calls them fun coupons. I don't have any fun coupons available at this time, so hopefully soon. That's kind of the reason why I've been putting off the ham radio thing. I mean, I have a whole bunch of things that are on my wish list, and it's just, unfortunately, it's not at the top right now.
Yeah, well, one of these days. So Art asked my opinion on the new Condor for the SDS 100. He just ordered one yesterday, so it's on the way. It's basically exactly the same as the original SMA Condor, but with the plastic or the rubber pre-trimmed. Now, I trimmed my own, and then I made the suggestion to Austin to do that, and they're pre-trimming it. So it's a little bit straighter than my trim. But it works just as well as the regular Condor. They really haven't changed anything on the antenna itself. They just trimmed it. So it's still a great antenna. You can't beat the Condor, especially if you're in an area that has low band, because it does have a larger capture area.
Any of the Austin product works great on low band. You look at, for example, the Spectra or the Ferret. Mm-hmm. They're both large, and they're actually all large antennas in their class, essentially.
The bigger is better, right?
Yep.
So, and then Gordon, right after that, made a mention that the SDS 200 is back in stock at Scannermaster. They probably won't be for long.
No, they won't be for long. Hit that affiliate link during this broadcast. Probably if you're watching this in the replay, who knows what the status will be. It's going to be like, this is how 2021 is going to be for scanner inventory. It's just going to be this way.
Yeah. I know we had a whole big bunch of them, and now we've got a few left. So if you want an SDS 200, order it right now, because by the time we're done with the show, it'll probably
I think we're at single digits.
I know exactly how many we have right now, and we are in the low single digits.
Yes. So definitely order. Hit that affiliate link. That'll help us out, for the sale. The scanner will definitely benefit us. It's down in the description of our video.
Joe asked if the new Remtronics antenna, how well it works on low band. I think we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I don't have any low band around here.
I don't either.
The closest low band I have is CHP, and we're in the two counties that I'm closest to. They use the county trunking system instead of the low band channels for the most part.
Son of a gun! You would have had a good opportunity there.
Yeah, I very rarely hear anything in low band out here. So, and I was asked if I've swept the antenna with an antenna analyzer. You know what? I've got one of those little antenna analyzers, and one of these days I'm going to figure out how to use it. So,
yeah, and then we can have video on it.
There you go. So I've got it. It's sitting in a drawer. I'm so busy that I just haven't had time. I got too many toys to play with and not enough time to play with them. I should quit my job and start playing with my toys.
Oh, that'll make an opportunity.
Yeah, make an opportunity, but then I'll especially for the movers when they come to evict me. So we need to get the scanner guys stickers made. So we should get
Yeah,
stickers made with our logo.
I have to look at that. That may require some. I'm not too sure. Usually, most of all of our products are shipped out by another company.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't. I'm not. We're not making enough money to make this our full time gig where we can sit there and do labels and ship out. As of right now, I will look to see if that's a possibility. The other thing too is if we raise enough fun coupons for the scanner guys budget, and if we do date and hamvention, maybe we can see if we can get it printed off the scanner guys stickers and either hand them out, or if you purchase something at the booth, you get a free sticker. So we'll figure that out. Maybe we can get the Mr. Barnett on board with something.
There is, we had talked a little bit earlier, there's a slight gap when you have the an SDS antenna on a non-SDS radio. If you have a carry case, I know you're big on carry cases, the little loop that goes on the antenna will cover that. So that will help cover the aesthetics if you're anal about things.
I can't say enough about the carrying cases. I mean, I was just carrying my SDS 100 with me the other day. And, I love the carrying case because, it just protects it, keeps that radio looking brand new. If you carry your radio all the time, buy the carrying case.
Yeah. And if you are kind of guy who buys new radios and sells the old one, it helps maintain the resale value.
Exactly. Whoever you're selling it to is going to be very impressed, when there's not any scratches or anything. It looks like brand new out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dave said, along with the hoodie, we should, how about a sweatshirt? So that's another
We have the ability. We have the ability to do that. I'm not too sure how many of you guys are interested, but we'll definitely, the company that we use has a hoodie and a sweatshirt option. I'll start getting those worked up as we get into the fall. And of course, tell the husband or the wife or the spouse, that you want one of those, and maybe it'll be under the Christmas tree for you as well. I mean, we've had spouses. Dale's wife bought him a coffee mug from our website, and he was very surprised, to find that.
To get that,
yeah.
So. Yeah, it's great to have a spouse that may not be involved in the hobby, but it allows you to partake in your hobby like that. So that's pretty good. So talking about Dale, he asked, anybody here done the official U.S. Forest Service pack test? So I have not done the official pack test, although I can. If you're a firefighter, of a certain age, you probably know what an Indian tank is, and that's a big tank that goes on your back. You carry it like you would a Scott Air Pack, but it's a big water tank that goes on your back, and you're doing one of these things, pumping out water. And I've spent hours carrying one of those things and pumping. I got really good at that, and it really builds up your arm muscles. And I was a baseball player at the time, and it helped me. It helped my swing actually. So, if you've ever carried we call them a pack tank or an Indian tank. There's a bunch of different terminologies for it depending on what department you were with at the time. But and I'm sure that the pack test is something similar to that. You have to carry a pack of stuff. Now, these wildland firefighters, they carry a lot more than just a backpack with a tank on it. They are carrying food, water, survival gear, fire-resistant tents, pickaxes and shovels, and all their gear, radios, spare batteries. These guys are carrying a whole ton of equipment. I've been a firefighter. I know what it's like to carry a lot of stuff. I've never been a wildlands firefighter. Those guys carry 5 times as much. So, give those guys credit for all the stuff that they got to carry. So, controlled burns, we were talking about that earlier. That helps keep the fuel down so that the unintended fires don't become as bad. Apparently, there's a pretty good-sized wildfire that just broke out in LA County, California, and they're using a lot of aircraft to fight that fire right now. So if you're in the LA area, start listening for that. Apparently, CAL FIRE also handles medical for unincorporated areas in a lot of places in California. I did not know that. So apparently, they are basically the fire department for a lot of places. I didn't know they also handled medical.
Wow.
They've also got probably the largest state air fleet, 73 aircraft.
Yeah, and the Mass State Police for their air wing for the helicopters, they have 6, I believe. That was the last count. I mean, that's 73. That's a lot of equipment.
I mean, you take a look at Riverside County, California, and it's bigger than the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
Not quite as many people. Talking about Riverside County, Ben lives in Riverside County, which is just 100 miles away from me or so. And CAL FIRE is the fire department out there. So they're a lot of fun to monitor on VHF. So, and apparently they have state response areas for a lot of that, except for areas that CAL FIRE contracts stuff out to, LA and Kern counties. So apparently LA and Kern County handle most of the wildland fires on state land in those areas, but the CAL FIRE handles in the rest of the state. Dale says that they've got the CAL FIRE firmware on their Kenwood mobile radios. Gives them more channels. That makes sense. Cool. Yep. The Bambi buckets. They also used to snag the occasional diver. So I've actually read about this. They would have the helicopters or aircraft with a bucket and dip it into the ocean and grab water, and dump in the fire. And apparently, at least once, they actually grabbed the diver in that bucket, and then not knowing so, and then dumped the diver on the fire. It's not uncommon. Oh yeah, can you imagine you're just swimming around with your snorkel or your air tank, and all of a sudden you're like, oh crap! Oh man, and it's not that uncommon to find fish.
I was just thinking that when we were talking. When we were talking about, I didn't mention it, but I'm thinking, there's going to be fish. There's going to be all types of stuff.
Yeah, they every time after a big fire, there's always this human interest story about how they found this, this big 20-pound catfish on the top of a mountain. Well, we know how it got there. Yeah. If you find a scuba diver on the top of a mountain, hopefully he survived the trip. Dave asked, how low will a plane fly when they're dropping their load over the fire? As low as they need to be. They're not too high. They're a couple hundred feet. If you go to YouTube, there's a bunch of good videos of aerial drops, and people are standing there watching this thing, and they're dropping this orange fire retardant, and then and the people are standing there with their phones doing this, and then all of a sudden they get blasted with this stuff. There's some great videos of that, and you'll see how low they are. And when you've got a DC-10 or a 747 dropping, orange fire retardant on you, it looks a whole lot bigger at 200 feet than it does, higher. So Gordon's flight instructor went over to fly water tankers. He flew into the smoke and didn't come out. So, sympathies to him and his family. These guys are doing a dangerous job. Not only the wildland firefighters on the ground, but the guys in the air. It's not for the faint of heart, and these guys are heroes. Just like all the other police and firefighters are. These guys are doing the job they're paid to. So, the Civilian Conservation Corps work projects built thousands of fire towers all over the country. So there were a lot during the Depression, during the 1930s. There were a lot of CCC projects, Civilian Conservation Corps, and that was one of them. Fire suppression, fire towers, and all kinds of work. And put a lot of people to work, kept a lot of people fed, and got some good work out of it too. Dale says that in Montana you can rent lookouts for the night. So that would be kind of an interesting thing to camp out in a fire tower. You know?
I've heard of, I think I've heard of something like that in somewhere local in New England that they did something like that as well. You know, I mean, it would be totally interesting, you know, on a clear night, you know, be able to see all the, you know, especially if you're into stars and everything. And it probably would be a very romantic thing, you know, if your spouse is into the outdoors and so on.
Oh, yeah, but wouldn't you rather have your radios than your spouse?
Well, I mean, well, you could have both. I mean, depending on the spouse.
No, you probably can't.
No, I have a scanner in my bedroom. I know you can't on yours.
No, I'm not allowed to have a scanner in the bedroom
No,
anymore.
I actually have two of them in the bedroom. So,
your wife is nicer than mine when it comes to that. So, yeah, that would be great. Yeah, if you're a ham or a scanner listener, that would be a great place because obviously you got elevation. So
yeah, and plus, you know, the other thing you have working for you, excuse me, not against you, for you, is not only that height, but at night. Yeah. You're able to pick up a lot further. That RF environment goes down considerably.
Oh, especially in the summertime, yeah.
Yeah, be able to see how far you can receive.
Can you imagine being up there during a temperature inversion? Oh, gosh, that would be fun.
Oh, yes, it would be. I'm sure some of you guys are Googling how to rent one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, there's going to be a sudden spike in that. And, hey, talk about social distancing. You know, your nearest neighbor is going to be 100 miles away.
Yeah.
Woodsy Owl. That was the name, apparently, of the guy, Give a Hoot, Don't Pollute.
Yeah.
There was another one very similar to the to Smokey Bear. So Woodsy Owl.
Smokey's lasted a long. I just was, you know, I thought of that. You know, I said we got to mention him. You know, I mean, this has got to be a slide. And then I was looking at 1944. Wow, it's still a long time.
If you pull up Tom Prust's comment at would it be 842 for you?
842. All right, I'm scrolling.
Take a look at his avatar. Yeah, I don't know if you can bring that up or not.
842.
Yeah. So.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yep. The Anapian Western. As a rail fan, I recognize that. That was a railroad line that ran from the Green Bay area east to Lake Michigan and had a branch line as well. And it's long gone now, but I've actually followed a good chunk of that rail line up there. It's now mostly a bike path, but that was a very interesting railroad. I always enjoyed it. It was gone before I got into rail fanning, and part of it was still being run by the Green Bay and Western. But I just wanted to bring that up just because I like that railroad.
It looks like it's got a cool logo. I wouldn't be surprised if that's on a caboose.
It
just
looks
looking
like
at looking at the texture of it looks like it's a wooden vehicle. I love cabooses.
That could be at the National Railway Museum, which is in the Green Bay area. So
nothing
I'm not
like
sure
these.
That's where it's at.
Nothing like these little railroad lines. That's for sure.
I love short lines.
And if you want to learn more about short lines, join us for our monthly show. It's the first Monday of every month on the Train Aficionado YouTube channel. So definitely check that out as well.
So I bet you Tom would be watching us on Monday. And in the national parks, a couple things to listen for. Don't forget your FRS radios. Those are really popular in the national parks.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then 146.52 for the hams.
Yeah, and don't forget, if those national parks have a campground in it, you're definitely going to hear the FRSs chirping, because anywhere there's a campground, that's a busy, busy band.
Yeah. And sometimes the firefighters working the lookout towers might answer you on 146.52 if they're a ham. So you can always try to do a CQ while you're in the parks on 146.52. So Lyndon Says in Ohio, the DNR there uses the state mark system. Apparently, a lot of their stuff is encrypted, but they still operate in the clear once in a while. So I guess it's good when they're operating on the clear. Steve ordered the Remtronics 842 BNC and a Spectrum Force antenna to replace his antenna for his radio in the car. That little Spectrum Force magnet mount antenna is a great antenna. I've got 3 or 4 of them. I use on my vehicles when I buy a new car. I'll put them on there to get my radios going before I have a chance to get the antennas drilled. But they are, for $20, you can't beat them. They are a great scanner antenna. If I moved to the house on the hill, I might be able to hear the Kingman fire. Yeah, probably. The house that I'm looking at, I should probably be able to hear it because of the elevation and location. So, the SDS 500. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun with that.
Boy, that's gonna be one of these times. It's gonna go trend on Radio Reference.
Yeah. Well, I think it's already been mentioned there, but yeah.
But I mean, we could really start something.
We could start some rumors. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that.
We're not going to. We joke around a lot about that. So, all right. So let me see if I can find my location here because I'm switching from my saved notes to the live notes.
So we're at the literally at the top of the hour. So you're now. Yeah. Let me just see. Let's see if I can get you a starting point.
There, I found it. All right, so
the dual antennas.
Dual antennas, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Gordon says we're getting into air show season. Yeah. Some of the air shows are still going to occur this year. Most of them were canceled last year.
You know who we should have on is Phil over at the Scanner School. I mean, he knows a lot about these air shows, and he's attended some of them, so that would be a good guest that we should definitely keep in mind. To come on speaking. That I just rang a bell with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg asked if we, since we're rail fans here, are there any apps to show you when the trains are on the track? So you use TrainMod.
Yeah, TrainMod 5. So you'll find almost all the railroads, some of the popular routes. Not all the routes are on there, but some of the routes are on there. None of the CSX ones because they use satellite for their communications, but Norfolk Southern. I'm trying to think of the other ones. BNSF. God, I would have to look. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the Class 1 are on there, but CSX is not.
Yeah. Yeah, not all of them use the apps that allow you to track them, but and there are some other apps out there that you can get for your cell phone that allow you to track specific cars and stuff like that. But for his purposes, being stuck at a railroad crossing, that's really nothing there that's going to help him so much there. So
no, and then plus the other thing is the trains, freight trains run on a schedule, but it's an open schedule. It's not like a passenger train where it's got to be at a certain location at a certain time. Yeah. There's daily trains that run, and there's no way of telling. They could be running ahead of schedule or running behind the schedule. Just all depends.
So Carmen, Rick asked a question about the SDS 100 about the red light going out even when the radio is plugged in. So the way the SDS 100 is supposed to work is when your radio is charging, the red light should come on. When the battery gets fully charged, it should go green. If the battery light goes out, chances are the radio's on. So, and it's going to be charged. So, fun coupons, as Ron White would say, coupons. Is what you're looking for, right? You need fun coupons to buy more stuff.
Yeah, fun coupons. That's for sure. I lost the.
Yeah, that was at 07, 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I was looking down at the bottom to see how many more we have.
All right. Let's see here. Any ham classes in Ontario because of COVID? Who do you contact? So let's look online to see if there's any online ham radio classes. That might be your best bet at this point. I know Canada's got a pretty rough time with COVID these days. So you probably have a hard time getting in-person classes, but see if there's any online classes. And yes, I do have a Nano VNA antenna analyzer. Like I said, I just haven't had time to learn it and play with it yet. So
We got to give Rich a project to be able to break that out.
yeah.
All right, well, let's see. What day do we fill that show in and get you to go look at that?
Yeah. Let's see here. Let's put the sticker on your car bumpers. Yeah, well, we should. We should have a contest with the sticker.
These I got at a train show, and these you can actually put in on a vehicle, and they work. A lot of people put it on their water jugs. So definitely, I'm going to look into this to see how much it would cost. Of course, I got to look at the budget for the scanner guys, and we'll have to front the money, unfortunately. But yeah. But maybe if the 2022 Dayton Hamvention's a go, and we know enough of you people are going to show up, we will see if we could do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we should think about Scanner Guy RVs. So yeah, we can
Scanner Guy RVs.
Yeah, why not?
We're not quite there yet. We need a lot more subscribers, so hit the subscribe button.
Well, I'll tell you what. We'll do a Scanner Guy RV when we get 10 million subscribers.
10 million?
10 million. Yep.
Okay.
So,
we could do 10.
We get 10 million subscribers.
Yes, so
we'll do a Scanner Guy's RV.
Yeah, 10 million. As long as you didn't promise 10,000, because I don't think that's going to cut it.
We can hit 10,000. That's reasonable, but 10 million is going to be tough. If we hit 10 millions, we'll be able to afford the RV.
Yes.
So we could do patches. That's another thing to consider as well.
Yeah.
And Will wants a pocket T-shirt. So I buy pocket shirts. So I got a pocket collar shirt and I got pocket T-shirts because where else are you going to put your phone? I'm afraid of my phone. Mine's large enough where if I sit down, I've got a little bit of an overhang. I don't want to break my phone. So.
Wow, that's not good.
Yeah, I know. But some of us of a certain size have that. So that's why fat guys always have pocket shirts to put our phones in. And let's see here. If you drop the radio, it might break. Get a case. Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, cases will protect your radio much more than not having a case.
Yeah, it definitely saves it from those little blemishes that you could get without the case.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pump tank, cleanest thumb in the land. Yeah. So we were talking before about having the pack tanks, the Indian tanks. So the ones that we had when I was on the fire department back in the 70s and in the 70s, they were all made out of metal and they were steel and they weren't even aluminum. These things were made of metal. Nowadays they're made out of plastic and about a third the weight for the tank itself. But those old ones were metal and overhang. Yes. Let's see here. Jake is a radio tech for Louisiana Forestry Division. So, hey, welcome, Jake.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yep. And he's a ham. Hint, hint, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So, apparently, Riverside County contracts with CAL FIRE. So, they do the all hazards fire department. So, they have Type 1 engine staffed with paramedics. So, apparently, CAL FIRE handles the firefighting for Riverside County, which makes sense. I mean, Riverside County is huge. It's it's like the size of Kentucky, and they got a huge area to cover and only a few small cities. So the county just contracts with the state to provide that since they're already in the area anyway. So they just add some more equipment and personnel. Turtles hurt. Yeah. So. That's another thing that these buckets and Bambi buckets will pick up are turtles, and with those hard shells, you get hit in the head with a flying turtle. That would hurt,
especially from that height.
Yeah,
it's going to have that force and momentum coming at you.
They found a Mazda. Okay. And you imagine the updraft for tankers. Yeah. So when you've one of the things, there's some YouTube videos that have in cockpit video of these fire tankers, and so not only are they getting these big updrafts from the fire, but now all of a sudden they're losing 30,000 pounds of weight in a heartbeat. They're dumping this stuff out. Now all of a sudden they're so much lighter, so now they got to keep the flaps on to keep that plane from going whoosh, straight up. So yeah, that is tricky, and that is some tricky flying. If you're trained to do that and you're good at it, more power to you, man, because you earn your keep for that. So Jake says that some of their fire towers are used for repeaters and base station antennas. Why not? It's a great secondary use for a fire tower. To put some antennas on it, put a repeater up there. The great YouTube videos, how to get the red orange retardant out of your clothes and off your skin. That bank robber look isn't for everybody.
No.
Yeah, those are some funny videos too of people standing there taking videos and getting blasted with that orange stuff. So, yeah, let's see here. Apparently, the San Diego Fire Authority also contracts with Cal Fire. So, if you're familiar with California, San Diego County is a great big county, but all people are concentrated in the city of San Diego and the suburbs, and there's a huge part of San Diego County which is nothing but wildlands. So, and let's see here. There we are. And there was a fire tower near Dwight, Ontario that was decommissioned that you can climb up at your own risk. So I wouldn't probably do that unless you had permission to. That's kind of scary because if they're abandoned, they're probably not maintained.
Yeah,
and
that's going to be quite a drop if you get up to a certain point, and you're either going to be hurt or dead depending on the fall.
Joe brings up a pretty good point. The next comment up. He's been at tower sites where he can see dozens or hundreds of cell sites, but you get no cell coverage. Because on cellular towers, they use down tilt on the antenna. So all the signal is concentrated towards the ground. It's like using a directional antenna, but they're pointed towards the ground so that coverage isn't being wasted, being spread out, and that allows them to reuse those frequencies at closer towers. So if you're above a cell tower, you may not have coverage because the antennas are pointing away from you. Lots to listen to with Cal Fire for sure. Dave, we talked to Dave a little while ago. He bought an SDS 100. He says it works a whole lot better than his 436 did. So that's cool. Mountaintops are terrible for cell coverage. Yeah, that's for sure. I was up at Pikes Peak a couple of years ago, and we drove up to the top, and I had no cell coverage. There's a cell tower up there, but I had no cell coverage because apparently it wasn't Verizon. It was another carrier. But I tell you what, radio was great. I was talking on a portable to a guy. He said it was about 400 miles to the east of where I was, and I'm talking on a portable. So 14,500 feet. And being able to see for hundreds of miles.
I was a couple of times I did this. I was working when I worked as a traffic reporter in Boston. We had a repeater that was right in Boston. It was for our mobile traffic reporters. Mm-hmm. So I'll tell a little story. My dad's watching right now. So we went up to Mount Washington, and I had my portable with me. And Mount Washington is several miles away up in New Hampshire. And so he sees me. He said, "Oh, he's gonna try it." He's thinking he's not gonna be able to hit the repeater. So I get out of the car, hit 707, the traffic control, and traffic control, go ahead, 707. And my father was like, "Oh my god!" So that's one of the times I did it. And then in Camden, Maine, it's a little coastal town. I did it there too. It wasn't a super high elevation, but because it was along the ocean, I called traffic control again. And son of a gun, they answered me.
Yeah. Well, we did the same thing in the city environment. We went up to the observatory at Sears Tower, which is 1,400 feet above ground level, and we were able to talk back to our repeater on a 2 or 3 watt UHF radio. Talk to our repeater that's 30, 40 miles away, like it was next door. So.
Yeah, it was crazy on top of Mount Washington. It was foggy up there, and it's like hundreds of miles. I mean, it was, like, if anybody's familiar with Massachusetts, the lower end of 128 through Braintree and Canton, because of the Big Blue Mountain there, you can't hit the repeater, which is literally 10 miles away. But since I had that elevation on top of Mount Washington, I hit it like nothing. And that was cool.
All righty. Bob uses a Spectrum Force mag mount antenna for his SDS 100 in the shack, and he's got it sitting on top of a tin can. So people all the time, we suggest him to try one of these mag mount antennas, put it on a piece of metal, a cake pan, or some piece of metal. Up on a shelf.
Getting up on the shelf. The other thing, too, great example of this, which we'll probably talk about next week, is, let's say, looking at Rich's shack, let's say you weren't able to put an antenna, by the window because your shack is not near the window. You could get one of these antennas, sit this antenna on the windowsill. You can get. I
had a problem with my radar box, which you can see on the screen and on the computer in back of me.
Yep.
It wasn't working. And so I found out that the jumper cable from my patch panel to the thing that went bad. So for about 2 weeks until I got a new cable, I used one of those little Spectrum Force antennas plugged into the back of my radar box and put it on top of the cabinet. It worked pretty well. I mean, not as good as an antenna up in the attic, but it worked pretty darn good. And that was on, what was that? 900,000 megahertz or something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It worked pretty well. So really surprised. Chris says he can't find the DMR in Ingham County, which is the capital area of Michigan, Lansing area. So I'm pretty sure they do use the state system. I got a cousin who just recently retired from the state police, and he started off as a DNR officer in Michigan in that area too. So I'm pretty sure that they use the state digital system. So again, Chris, look at Radio Reference. They should be there, and I do like this picture.
Yeah.
Another Chris says the Blue Angels were canceled in his area, but they came to train in that area to practice. So they did a lot of flying out there. So at least people got to see some cool aviation there. Let's see here. And fire NATOs look cool, but they can be nasty. Yeah. So if you're in an area where there's wildland fires and you want to listen to or watch some of the activity, make sure you're doing it from a place of safety. It's someplace that's not in the fire area, because that's just stupid and dangerous. So where I was on the side of a public road watching the operations, the helicopters, along with some other people there, and there was a state highway patrol officer standing there keeping us from going anywhere closer to the pond. He was fine where we were at. We were in a safe position. We were out of the fire area, and it was a great and safe place to watch the action. That was a great place to go. Don't put yourself in harm's way to watch any fire or police operation. A lot of the abandoned fire towers have some of the bottom parts of the steps removed to keep people from jumping, climbing them. So if those steps are gone, don't go up there. They're out for a reason. And Dave says that the Riverside and San Diego counties have a volunteer fire lookout association that mans and maintains the lookouts there, and they're trained by the Forest Service. That's a great idea. And Mount Washington to the center of Boston is 132 miles, according to
I couldn't remember exactly how far away it was. I knew it was over 100.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pretty amazing, to think of, it's I had the height going for me. Just like you did at the Sears Tower. I mean, with a low wattage radio, I had line of sight with a repeater.
So Greg asked what a radar box is. It's an ADSB. It's most commercial and a lot of civilian aircraft these days transmit an identifier signal with the location, elevation, identifiers, and such on a specific radio frequency, 1090 megahertz. Thanks, Joe. And it's called ADSB, and it's like automatic data. I don't remember what the abbreviation stands for, but basically it's a data signal that's transmitted by the aircraft, and I have a radio that can receive and decode that, and it plots out the location on the map. So it's kind of hard to see the screen in back of me now, but I can go in there and look and say, okay, there's a 737 from Southwest coming out of Phoenix on the way to LA, and it's just over my house right now. So it's pretty cool.
We did a great show about aviation, so if you're interested in aviation, check out our YouTube channel. We talked about a couple of the websites too that you can track them, which are really cool. So definitely,
and that's where these sites are getting their information from. So that's about it, my friend.
All right, so let's give you a quick reminder of what's coming up on the channel. Next Wednesday, we're building the perfect scanner shack without breaking the bank. This is something that you want to definitely watch. We're going to cover some tips and tricks and simple things to be able to make your shack look and feel like an awesome shack. And definitely follow us on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and hitting the bell for notifications whenever we post a new video. If you're on, if you have Roku or Apple TV, download the YouTube app. You can watch us live or the recorded shows on your TV. So next week's broadcast is Wednesday, May the 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on the channel. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also, Train Aficionado Live. We're going to be joined by Danny Harmon of Distant Signals. He's a YouTuber, and he does a phenomenal job with his YouTube channel. So he'll be joining us next Monday. That's Monday, May the 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, on the Train Aficionado YouTube channel. And make sure you check out all the social media for Train Aficionado at Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, and the website, trainaficionado.com. We thank you so much for...
I got a quick question for you, Jonathan.
The 125 AT is recommended by Train Aficionado. I knew where you were going. Right there.
It has not been discontinued.
There it is. I'm going to put it right up on the screen. Bearcat Joe joining us towards the tail end of the broadcast, and we love to hear that. Thank you for reminding us. And we just got that plug in right there at the end of the show, and we want to make sure that we recommend all of our social media as well. So definitely check us out, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at The Scanner Guys, and check out our brand new website, thescannerguyshow.com. And we want to just give a quick shout out to Scanner Master as well. They are the sponsor of our show, and they are our retail partner. So anything that you need regarding scanners such as the 125 AT, you think we're getting paid to mention the 125 AT every show?
I love that little scanner.
Me too.
That's awesome.
I can get mine. Hold on.
Yeah.
Here it is, right here. I got my 125 AT. It's got its carrying case. I've got my VHF antenna, which you can purchase from Scanner Master along with the case. So definitely check out the 125 AT. A lot of people make jokes about it. That's why it's out of stock all the time, because all we do is talk about the 125 AT.
Yeah, but who says these things don't work,
Yeah. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. We went into a little bit of overtime this evening. We're happy to see a lot of you guys watch our Train Aficionado show. Definitely hit the subscribe button. We're trying to build that up as much as we can as well. And thank you so much for just joining us each and every week. We appreciate every one of you. We try to get to every one of your comments. Like if we do, as Rich says, we do read them. Some of them make us chuckle when we're live on the air as we're talking and reading those comments. So we'll catch you
I think
again.
somebody mentioned that our overhang, it means we're kind of fluffy guys,
Yes, oh, the fluffiness. Yes, Joe, it wouldn't be a show if we didn't mention the 125 AT.
That's right.
Well, thank you again. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
We'll catch you again on Monday night and Wednesday night next week. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again soon.
Twofer coming up later.
Yeah, have a good night.